And just like the title of this thing, Show Me the Money, we've talked about the Fed Now stuff. We've talked about the Wilbur Ross and Trump stuff. And we're going to be talking about this, the money in politics and being a political commentator makes you bank. So here's an aspect that I don't think people understand. When it comes to like where I'm at in the position that I do this, and all the other guys that you guys watch, fantastic people, I watch them too, like I was just on with Pablo, but there's some Christian commentators where their whole goal is to talk about politics because it is a money maker. It is a view creator. It is a mass following subject because everybody's got an opinion on politics, and they're going to tune into the people that say what they want to hear. Remember when I said just because somebody says they have a belief that lines up with yours doesn't mean it's always true. There's money to be played. That's why I warn of things like Fox News. They're still mainstream media. They know what they're doing. Newsmax is another one. I'd even throw in somebody like Tucker Carlson, even though he's saying a lot of the stuff that we like. There's a reason why he's in that position. It's important that we understand that. He makes a lot of views, a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of money. There's a game to be played. Guaranteed, I could have a lot more people watching this show in 2 months' time if I switched to just talking about politics. I'm not going to do it, but I'm just letting you know. There's a game to be played. There's money to be made with this. Just like it's the same thing as what's going on in the church. Just like Joel Osteen, Kenneth Copeland, and Benny Hinn. People wonder how can all these people follow them and just throw gobs and gobs of money, backing up the Brinks truck. Why? Because they say what people want to hear. They say things that make them feel good, that line up with their beliefs. They say things that people want to hear. It is the same thing going on in church as far as that goes. That's why you see mega churches like Bethel, Hillsong, and Elevation. They're saying a lot of positive stuff that people want to hear. They're ear tickling. We know that's something in Scripture that's going to happen in the last days. People are going to want their ears tickled. They don't want truth. They want fables. It's the same thing. And the same game that's being played in church, just like Scripture tells us, is also being played as part of the political game as well. So it's very important that we understand that. Same goes again for the commentators on politics. They say what people want to hear, and the money will flow. So here we go. Piggybacking off of JD here, let's take a look at this Thrive Time Reawakening show that JD was talking about. Now, right off the bat, JD didn't show this. I want to show this. Have you guys seen the people who are running this show? Those are the guys running the Thrive Time Reawakening tour, where they say it's the Bible versus the Great Reset. I'm not sitting here making fun of these people, but I want to let you guys know my warning alert, my warning alarm is going off. There's something unsettling about this. You've got super happy, looks like he's jacked up on uncut Colombian cocaine over there on the left with Dr. Robert Zollner. And then you've got Ray Clark there, who looks like he's a devious devil type of person. There's something off about this. Something's not right. Maybe it's just me. I don't think so. I don't know. There's warning sirens when I look at that. That's on their website. That's on their promotion. When you want to find out who those people are, those are the pictures they chose. There's something weird. You've got the happy-go-lucky, and then you've got the devil. That's that good and evil thing. Something's not right. There's something not right there. So those are the people that are throwing this thing. Now, let's talk about some of the speakers. I'm not going to go over the exact same stuff JD did. That'd just be pointless. He did a much better job than I could have doing that. So again, make sure you go and you check that out. Let's just go down some of these speakers. I'll point out some people that I think are interesting. One is Charlie Kirk. I know a lot of people like Charlie Kirk. I know Charlie Kirk does a lot of stuff with Jack Hibbs. Now, I'm not attacking Jack Hibbs. Calm down, people. I'm not attacking Jack Hibbs. But Charlie Kirk is always somebody that something throws me off about him. It's always been that way. He seems to have a piranha type personality where he seems, and I'm not saying he is, this is just my opinion and how the sense that I'm getting from this. So just calm down. I know I'm already going to get emails. But he seems to prey upon Christians and churches. If you ever look at his social media, if you ever look at the videos that he does, he was full on with the Trump train stuff and everything. He's a political dude, but yet he seems to have found a market. I think that's the best way to put it. He seems to have found a market in the Christian churches to get people to watch, follow, and donate to his programs. Now that's just the sense that I get from it. So I don't know. You guys roll with your own discerning. We have to use discernment on that. So just something to think about. And I saw in the comments, Dr. Z there is dead. It is important to understand this ReAwakening tour. This is like the third or fourth one that's been done. So I think they have some old speakers listed on here. So something to keep in mind. Then we've got Owen Schroyer, who's an InfoWars journalist. I'm here to let you guys know InfoWars is not your friend. They say a lot of stuff that people like. And I'm not saying that there's not some truth coming from there, but I would avoid InfoWars. So you've got an InfoWars journalist there. Of course, Robert F. Kennedy. He's on there. Chad Prather. He's connected to Blaze Media. Blaze Media. That's with Glenn Beck. I'm not saying they don't have bad information, but keep in mind Glenn Beck is a Mormon. So something to keep in mind as far as that goes. Big one that I want to point out here, page 2, Sean Feucht. I talk about him with the NAR movement, with music, musicians to avoid. Sean Feucht is on here. He comes from Bethel. Sean Feucht is a Bethelite, and we know what comes out of Bethel. This is very important to understand. Reawakening, becoming awake, waking up the nation. It's been hijacked. It's not what biblical awakening is. It's taken on a new meaning. The NAR has hijacked it. It is the belief of kingdom now and dominion theory. Keep in mind, a lot of these people that you see on here are going to have the mindset that we can win this country back, that we can make this country great again. We can make America great again. We could change the world. We can get it back. This is lining up with kingdom now and dominion. It's important that we understand the spiritual aspect of this. And Sean Feucht is right in the middle of that. He's going to be leading worship at these events. It's important that we understand that. Then we've got Mike Lindell, My Pillow dude, fully on board with Trump. Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn is heavily I don't know if he's still pushing it, but he was heavily pushing the Q movement. We'll talk about that in a minute. Roger Stone, all connected to Trump's presidency and all that stuff. Then you got Mickey Willis. He was the creator of a specific movie. I don't even know if I can say the name of the movie, but it has to do with something that happened in 2020, and it has to do with planning it. It was a very famous movie when it came out. I'm sure you're kind of catching the drift of where I'm going with that. Let's move on. Eric Trump, he's last name should give it that. Ian Smith is kind of interesting that people weren't paying attention to. Ian Smith was the New York gym owner who was arrested for staying open during the lockdowns in 2020. It's interesting that he's a part of that. Here we go. Q, big name. People might not recognize his name. They'll recognize his website. Mike Adams. Mike Adams, his information likes to get thrown around a lot on prophecy websites, prophecy conversations and stuff like that. Dude runs Natural News. This dude was one of the leading guys for the Q movement, that where one goes, we all go type of thing, where every month they came up with a new way that Trump was going to get out of his trouble and then retake the office and everything. They actually just released a new one where he was supposed to get arrested today, and that was the plan for the military to come in, take over, and then put Trump back in the office. Mike Adams was one of the leading guys as far as the Q movement, and he is, if you ever look at his stuff, he will take the smallest bit of information and stoke fear and sensationalism out of it like you would not believe. He's a part of the natural news stuff. He has his own podcast. A lot of prophecy guys quote his stuff. I'm telling you, that dude is bad, bad, bad news. Avoid him. I can't begin to tell you how much to avoid him. Then you've got Sidney Powell. We know about Sidney Powell. She was a part of the Trump stuff. She also was a pusher of the Q movement as well. Keep in mind, with the Q movement, it's a psyop, but something that they were talking about was the awakening, the Great Awakening. That was something that they were pushing. There's going to be a Great Awakening across not only the United States, but the world. What is this tour called? The ReAwakening Tour. Again, it's been hijacked. There's something very devious going on behind this thing. Now, I'm not saying every single person on that list is not an unsaved Christian that's sending people. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is this movement, this tour is there, a part of this whole awakening stuff. And it's not right. Let's keep this rolling. Dr. Simone Gold, we know her from the Frontline Doctors Group. She was one of the leaders when 2020 that stuff was going on. We can't really get in further than that. Peter Navarro. This dude is interesting. He served on the Trump administration alongside Wilbur Ross. He also helped create the United States-Mexico-Canada trade deal, which we know that. Yeah, well, I'm not going to get into that, but you can look it up if you haven't taken a look at that. So we know he's heavily involved with that. Del Bigtree, he's a massive political commentator. He's got a lot of podcast stuff out there. You can look into him. You may not recognize his name, but the face sure looks familiar. I'm sure you've seen it on a compilation clip somewhere. He's a part of that as well. Let's keep it moving. Who else we got? We got Carrie. I never can pronounce her last name. Madej, I think that's how you pronounce it. She was also a part of the 2020 stuff and what was going on with the vitamins and everything. She does a lot of work with Mike Adams. Here's the boy that I want to point out. I'm not even going to call him pastor. I'm just going to call him Greg Locke. This is the guy. I've talked about him in the past before. He was the guy that had an affair, divorced his wife, and married his secretary. He claims kids with autism are demon-possessed. He says that he can talk to demons and he's able to see angels. This dude is warped. The dude is warped. And I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe his church actually hosted one of these awakening tours. Then we've got Alex Jones. I believe that's on the next page. There he is. Alex Jones. Again, he's somebody that, he's pointed out a lot of information, but something about him screams psyop. I can't sit here and confirm it. I'm just telling you, I get the willies when I see his stuff. I'm not saying he hasn't been wrong or hasn't been right on a lot of things. I'm not saying that, but something, I don't know, just doesn't sit right with me. I could be the only one. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to sit here and confirm that he's a bad dude. Just saying. It's important that we understand where these people come from. I also find it interesting that he just went through that lawsuit where he had to file bankruptcy and not a thing has changed. He's still doing his regular show like nothing ever changed. Just something interesting there. I think that's everybody on that page. Go to this one. Yep. Nick, another name I can't ever say. Nick Juicy. I don't know. I've actually seen this dude live. An old church actually invited this dude to come and speak to the youth. I've seen this dude live before. If you haven't seen him before, he has no limbs. He has no arms and legs. He's mainly a motivational speaker. I can't say I know much about his faith or anything. I just find it interesting that he's on this. I think that's it for that one. Let's move over to this one. Yeah. Sam Sorbo, wife of Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo has done some good movies, but he's also done some questionable movies as well. We know he's connected to the Hollywood era. Always Always be wary. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. Just always be wary of those who come from the Hollywood era. I'm just saying. Mike Smith. I believe he's on the next page, right? Yeah. Mike Smith is a name that, or a face that you might not recognize. He's a former Hollywood stuntman. He was mentored by a spiritual guide that likes to call herself Christian, but what she talks about is not very Christian. It's all wrapped up in the New Age stuff. You might recognize him from a small documentary that he put out called Out of Shadows, not Out of the Shadows. Don't get those confused. Out of Shadows, where he did a lot of talk about Hollywood, the CIA programs, pedophilia programs. I'm not going to mention on here just because of YouTube. Yeah, just an interesting connection. And then last but not least, you got Artur Pawlowski. You might recognize him during the lockdowns. He kept his church open, but he's a pastor that was screaming at the police, calling them Nazis and stuff like that. He was arrested several times. It's interesting, guys. It's interesting. Also take note, 14 pastors are on the list of speakers as well. 14 pastors. So again, I don't want to sit here and call all these people evil people and whatnot. I'm just letting you know these people are getting wrapped up in something that is following the kingdom now stuff, if you want to get biblical with it, with the awakening and all that stuff, the Q movement, the Great Awakening. This is the reawakening. We saw the people that were putting it on. We know that there's money in following and a game to be played here. We know this to be fact. We know this is what's going on. Now, there's another aspect that I found on their website where the Thrive Time podcast, and they talked about how they had some guests on the podcast. One of their guests is Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire. And if you don't know Daily Wire, yes, they do put out some good news. I've referenced them before, but they are fully wrapped up in the whatever can make them the most money game. I'm telling you, the stuff that I've seen, that's what they do. But they had Ben Shapiro on there. A lot of people like Ben Shapiro. A lot of people don't. I understand that. Ben Shapiro accidentally showed his cards not too long ago. Let's just take a look. So previous Thrive Time podcast guests include Ben Shapiro. Here's a couple of tweets from Ben Shapiro, some from 2021 and one from the 1st of February of this year. They've been deleted since then. I'm not going to read them just because I just want to be careful. But yeah, you should be able to see, and there's a little black square on one of them. He used God's name in vain, and I didn't want to show that. So that's what that censor is. I put that there. He kind of revealed his cards there and where he stood with something, kind of like what Trump did. I'm going to give you guys just a little bit more time to read if you haven't got it. He's clearly promoting something. And he says against the mandates, just like Trump. But he was all for the thing, just like Trump. It's interesting. I might take that off just in case YouTube might hit me for that. Hopefully YouTube doesn't hit me for that. If not, follow me on Telegram. I will let you know that we'll be streaming on Rumble next week. But yeah, guys, there's a game. There's a game to be played. There's this idea that what we can beat what's coming. There's this I don't know how many Christians I've run into where I've warned them about the prophetic events that are happening, and they said, yeah, but we need, and this is the biggest thing that I hear, and we have to understand the context of it. We are called to occupy until he comes. When you put it in terms of fighting the political fight, now I'm not saying, fighting for the abortion stuff and the transgender stuff. I'm not saying that's bad. I think we need to do that. I do. But occupy until he comes, the context of that is to occupy the world until he comes with the gospel. We are to occupy with the good news until he comes. We cannot take that out of context to fit the narrative of fighting a political game. That makes us no better than these political commentators that use Bible scripture taken out of context to prop up their platform. We cannot do that. We are to occupy with the gospel until he comes. And like I was saying on Pablo's podcast, all throughout history, God gives certain generations certain commands during certain periods of time. Our commands in this blessed generation where we know the rapture is right around the corner. Not date setting. Make sure that people don't accuse me of that. But we know we're a part of this time when it's coming, and he can come at any minute. Our goal, what we're commanded to do by Jesus, is to warn of people what is coming and to get the gospel out to everybody that we possibly can. Our goal is not to make America great again. Our goal is not to prepare the world for Jesus Christ to come with kingdom now, dominion theory. Our goal is not to reawaken or have a great awakening of anything. We know the revival is going to happen on the other side. There's going to be a great falling away. People are going to be deceived now more than ever in the history of ever. We cannot take that stuff out of context, and we have to understand what our goal is here. Again, I'm not saying not to stand up to fight against the abortion and the transgender stuff and the trafficking stuff and stuff. I'm all for that. But what I am saying is we cannot let that be the distraction. We cannot walk out of the bleachers and put ourselves into the game of what Satan wants us to get distracted with. It's important that we understand what is going on with this stuff.